Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. And today we're going to be diving into this guide all about building positive relationships with women.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of like this combination of practical advice, but
Mhm.
also like
Oh, real?
a look into the psychology behind what makes these relationships strong.
Yeah, I think what makes this guide stand out to me is it's not just like a list of do this and don't do that. It's really getting into sort of the mental and emotional dynamics that
Yeah.
are at play.
And that's what we're here for, right? That's what
Hmm.
the deep dive is all about.
Absolutely.
So I guess like any good relationship, we should start with a solid foundation. And the guide really stresses respect as that foundation.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just like being polite, you
Yeah.
know. It talks about things like active listening, respecting boundaries. There's this one technique I thought was interesting called reflective listening, where you actually like summarize what you heard before giving your own opinion.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, have you found that to be helpful?
Reflective listening is so powerful, and it really comes down to validation. When you take the time to reflect back
Mm-hmm.
what someone's saying, you're showing them that you're really trying to see their perspective. And there's actually some really interesting research on this.
Oh, really?
It turns out that feeling validated emotionally actually triggers the reward centers in our brains.
Wow, so it's like
Ooh.
literally making them feel good.
It's like getting a compliment
Right.
or even money.
I never would have thought of it that way, but it makes total sense.
It also reduces activity in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes fear and anxiety.
So by validating someone, you're like creating the safe space for them.
Exactly. You're building that foundation of trust, which is essential for any healthy relationship.
And that leads us perfectly into communication, which the guide emphasizes is a two-way street.
Communication is key. It's not just about expressing yourself. It's about really listening and understanding the other person.
You know, something I've always wondered about is this idea that men and women communicate differently.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. There are definitely differences in how men and women express their emotions.
Right, like some
Mm.
people say it's all societal, how we're raised, and others say it's biological.
Well, it's a complex issue. Socialization definitely plays a role, but there's also research suggesting that hormonal fluctuations can impact emotional expression.
It's probably a combination of both, right?
Most likely. I
Yeah.
think the key is to approach these differences with patience and understanding.
Yeah, and to create that safe space for open communication.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the guide's advice on offering reassurance and support, but without kind of taking over.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. You want to be supportive
Yeah,
without diminishing the other person's feelings.
exactly. And this is where the guide talks about understanding different love languages.
Oh, the love languages. That's a game changer.
Yeah, so for those who haven't heard of them, could you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. So there are 5 main love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and physical touch.
Okay, I see. So
Ah.
like different people feel loved
Hmm.
in different ways.
Exactly. And the guide stresses the importance of recognizing your own love language as well as your partner's.
It makes so much sense
Hmm.
because you could be showing love
Mm.
in a way that doesn't resonate
Mm-hmm.
with the other person.
Totally. And the guide gives some great examples. For someone whose love language is acts of service, doing the dishes without being asked could be more meaningful than a big romantic gesture.
It's about those little things
Absolutely.
that can make a big difference.
It all ties back to understanding and respecting each other's needs.
And speaking of respect, the guide also really emphasizes equality.
Equality is crucial. It's about treating women as equal partners in all aspects of life.
Right, and the guide gives examples like
Mhm.
sharing responsibilities, avoiding stereotypes, and making decisions together.
It's about partnership and mutual respect.
Exactly. So, while I totally agree with all of that, I'm also thinking about the flip side.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, where does respecting boundaries end
Mm-hmm.
and being vulnerable begin?
That's a really insightful point. It's a balance, isn't it?
Right, because I think sometimes we can get so caught up in being respectful
Mm.
that we might shy away from that deeper level of connection.
I think the key is open communication
Mm.
and building trust.
So starting by clearly communicating
Yeah.
your own boundaries and really listening to your partners.
Exactly. And as that trust grows, you can start to navigate those more vulnerable spaces together.
That makes a lot of sense. And while we're talking about
Mm.
what to do in relationships, I think it's also important to talk about what not to do.
Right, the red flag.
Yeah. And the guide outlines some toxic behaviors that can really damage a relationship.
Oh, yeah. Those are important for recognizing.
So things like controlling tendencies,
Yeah.
invalidation, and a lack of apology.
Those are big ones. These behaviors can really erode trust and lead to long-term problems.
They often stem from insecurity
Yeah.
or a need for control,
Hmm.
but they create a really unhealthy dynamic.
Absolutely.
And, it seems like the common thread running through all this is trust.
Trust is everything. It's the foundation of any strong relationship.
And the guide talks about building trust
Hmm.
through consistent actions,
Mm.
like keeping promises, being transparent, and supporting your partner's independence.
Those are all great ways to build trust. It shows that you're reliable and that you respect the other person.
And it's not just about what we do in our relationships, but also the work we do on ourselves.
That's so true. Personal growth is essential.
The guide encourages things like becoming more emotionally intelligent,
Yeah.
being self-aware, and addressing our own biases.
It's an ongoing journey, but it's so worth it.
It benefits not just our romantic relationships,
Yeah.
but also our friendships, our families, our work lives.
It ripples outwards.
Exactly. And that brings us to the guide's final point,
Yeah.
which is all about celebrating uniqueness.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's about recognizing and appreciating someone for who they truly are.
It goes back to that foundation of respect, valuing someone for their individuality.
Exactly. And it creates an environment where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. What resonated with you the most today? In which area do you feel you can focus on improving in your own relationships? Remember, building positive and respectful connections is a journey. And every step we take in the right direction benefits all